to another video. Today I'm going to be telling you my top 13 books of 2013. This year has been probably one of the best reading years I have ever had in my whole entire life, and it was so hard to only pick 13 books, but I did it. And I really think that this is a really good representation of my reading year. I read so many different books. So let's just get started. Number 13 is Twice Told by various authors. I've talked about this book in a couple of my videos, and it is an anthology, and I love this book because at the beginning there's like a picture, and then the picture was given to two different authors, and two authors wrote a story off of that picture, and there are a whole bunch of authors including Sarah Dessen and John Green, and this book was so good. I can't even explain how much I loved it. It was such a new, fresh, eye-opening thing because I've never read a book like this, and I'm really attracted to anthologies now. I have never read one before that was this large and had this many authors, and it was really good. Each story was unique, and it was so different to see how different the authors were in the perception of the picture, and it was just really good. If you haven't read this book yet, I really urge you to. Not all the stories in here are my favorite, but there were some that I wish were full-length books because it was so good. So number 13, Twice Told by various authors. Book number 12 is Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This book is a new read for me. I just finished it, I think, last week or the week before, and oh my goodness, guys, so good. I have never read a Neil Gaiman book before this one, and I was kind of afraid because I thought he only wrote adult, and I am not very... Adult kind of scares me sometimes because I don't know what I'm going to be reading about, or if it's going to be kind of weird or slow or something, but this was such a good book, and it's about this guy who goes back to his hometown in England, I believe. He kind of has a flashback of this one time at his house where things just kind of went completely crazy. This story took like a supernatural turn that I wasn't expecting, and it was just really well written, because one problem I have with paranormal stuff is that usually the story is really good, but it's not very well written. And this was really well written. I think that the writing was what pulled me in more than the story. And then after that, the story was just so intriguing that I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. And it was such a good book. If you haven't read anything by Neil Gaiman, please do. And if you have read things by Neil Gaiman, please let me know your favorites in the comments, because I want to read more Neil Gaiman, but I don't know which is good and which is not, because he's wrote like 80 bajillion books. So, number 12, Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Number 11 is Tiger Lily by Jodi Lynn Anderson. Tiger Lily was also a recent read. I believe I finished it last month, and I can't even... Guys, I'm just gonna like freak out over all of these books. I'm sorry, but I love this book. Tiger Lily is a fairy tale kind of retelling about Tiger Lily from Peter Pan, and the kind of like, it's not necessarily the story of Peter Pan and her perspective, but it's the story before Peter Pan and her perspective, and oh, it was so good. And when I say Peter Pan, I mean the movie Peter Pan, or the book Peter Pan, not Peter Pan himself, because he is in the book. And I just loved Tiger Lily as a character, and the thing that really got me with this book is that Tinkerbell is the narrator. If Tinkerbell wasn't the narrator, I don't think that I would have liked this book as much. I don't know if it would have made that connection with me, but I feel like because usually third person gets me, like I don't usually like it, but with Tinkerbell being the narrator, it was in third person in a way, but then the third person narrator was also a character, and that just really made me so very happy. The writing in this book, oh, you should have seen how many tabs I had in this book. I think I might have showed in my November wrap-up. I don't know, but you guys, this book is so good. So good. I really hope that you guys have read it or will read it, because it's really good. Number 11, Tiger Lily by Jodi Lynn Anderson. Number 10 is Sign Language by Amy Ackley. I read this book towards the very beginning of the year, probably like January or February. So it's been a long time since I read this book, but it still has that impacting feeling in me. I love this book, I think I might be, like, prone to books that make me cry, because, I don't know, but this book is about a girl, and I think her name is Abby. Yes, it starts off when Abby is 12 years old and her dad is diagnosed with cancer, and we just kind of follow her through her problems and the things that she goes through. I really enjoyed this book. First of all, it was in third person, which usually isn't my friend, but I realized that maybe that might be in my head, because so many books that I've read in third person this year have been so much better. But I love this book because we follow Abby from the age of like 12, so like 6th or 7th grade, up until she's a sophomore in high school. And I was afraid that because of that we wouldn't be able to know the character, but because we follow her for so long, I felt like the decisions that she made when she was older was in keep with the decisions that she made when she was younger, or they showed how much she's grown, and that really was something that touched me while reading this book. It was magical, and I did find a few quotes in this one that kind of gave me the watery eyes, but that happens a lot with me, so it's kind of a given. Number 10, Sign Language by Amy Ackley. If you haven't read it, please give it a try. Number 9 is Shut Out by Cody Keplinger. This was probably one of my favorite summer reads this year, and it is about, there's like a feud between the boys in the football and the soccer team, and the girls are just really getting frustrated about it because their girlfriends are getting frustrated about it because it's getting in between their love lives. So they decide to go on a sex strike, and this book was so witty. It was so funny. I love Cody Keplinger. I'm like in love with Cody Keplinger's way of writing, because I feel like these kind of things, like she has storylines that are kind of like funny or out there, but then the way that she writes it, it makes it seem as if it is something that could happen every day. And it is something that could happen, but it's not like it's going to happen tomorrow or anything. But after reading this book, it was like, wow, that is kind of realistic. And I love the way that she puts in like secondary themes into her books, and I take my hat off to Cody Keplinger. Really, really love this book. So good. So good. Number 9, Shut Out by Cody Keplinger. Number 8 is Forbidden by Tabitha Susma. This book was probably one of the most controversial topics that I read this year. I did read it during the summer, but I read it this year. And I'm the kind of person who really likes reading books that have like somewhat controversial topics, because I just want to see how the author handles it. And this one was probably one of the highest ones on my list, because it's about a brother and a sister that are falling in love. If you haven't read this book, give it a try, because I think you have to go into this book with a certain mentality, and if you go into it thinking that you're just going to hate it and it's gross and it's not good, you probably will come out of the book thinking that. But I would advise going into this book with an open mind and just wanting to know the story instead of wanting to have an opinion about the story. And I really want to know what you guys think about this book. So if you've read it, or if you're planning on reading it, let me know in the comments, and I would really like to know what you thought, or what you think you're going to think about it, if that makes sense. Number 8, Forbidden by Tabitha Susma. Number 7 is Lola and the Boy Next Door by Stephanie Perkins. And this book was cutest thing ever. I had read Anna earlier in the year, and I just fell completely in love with it, so I thought that I would give Lola a try. And both of these books just make my heart like, ooh, the way that Stephanie Perkins writes her books just makes me so happy. I can't even explain how individual her characters are. I feel like they have to be real people somewhere in this world, or else Stephanie Perkins is like, I don't know, she's making people in her backyard or something, because seriously, they have to be real. They have to. I can't even explain. If you haven't read the Anna or Lola, please, please, please just do it, because so good. And I'm waiting for Isla. Like, it needs to be here now. Number 7, Lola and the Boy Next Door by Stephanie Perkins. And I'm sure you guys can guess number 6, Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. I like this one slightly a bit better because I felt like the emotion was a bit more in this one, and the characters kind of fit together better. Not saying that Lola's characters didn't at all, but I just felt like these ones were just kind of like the glue, and I don't really need to talk about it much because I talked about it in one previously, but read this series. Read it. Number 6, Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. Number 5, The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Everyone and their mom has probably read this book by now, and I just was one of the last people to read it, I think. And I was reading it because BookTube, you guys, had been requesting it to me so much. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think the movie coming out also kind of made me want to read this. And this book is a modern classic. It's a treasure. It needs to be read in bulk. Everyone needs to be reading this right now. Most people know what it is about, but it's about teenager Charlie, and he's about to go into high school, and he's been having problems with his life ever since he was really little, and he's never really got over them, and he finds a group of friends, and they just kind of show him what life can be, and then they go through struggles and all that kind of stuff. But it's not even about that. It's just like about, I don't even know what it's about, guys. This book is just a collection of greatness, and I think that it is wonderful that Stephen Chbosky decided to share that greatness with the world. So yeah, this book, The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, number 5. Number 4 is Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. This book is my favorite classic book ever. I love it so much, and I have a review on it, and I talked about it in my wrap-up when I read it. And the same problem that I have is that you cannot write a synopsis for this book. It is crazy. It is completely out of there. It talks about religion and atomic bombs and people and life and meaning and all this kind of stuff, and it just touches on so many things that the story behind it, that the story that it's telling isn't even the story that is supposed to be portrayed, if that makes sense. And I don't even know what to say about it, just that it was really good, and I think that you guys should read it, even though I'm probably not persuading you very well, but you honestly cannot give a synopsis to this book because it's too special. Number 4, Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. Number 3 is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sanez. What can I say about this book? Read it. I don't know. This book is just another treasure in this world that I cannot believe is real. I can't believe that the story that I read about these characters was in between 2 pages, or it was in between the covers of a book, because it was so real. And I felt like this story is someone's story out there, and it's just being told, and in the most beautiful way. This book is about a boy named Aristotle, and he meets a boy named Dante, and it's just like following their friendship and their struggles, and I can't. I'm gonna start crying, guys. This book, it's just wonderful. The way it's written, the background behind the story, the everything. It's just really good. If you haven't checked out this book, please do. Number 3, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sanez. I do own my number 2 book, but I'm lending it out right now, and it is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This book is kind of like perfect. I don't know how to say in any other way. The first time I read this, I was reading it because it had been on every list that I had found of books that you need to read before I came to BookTube, and there's my phone, but to BookTube, and I just wanted to know what everyone was talking about. And once you open the pages of this book, you are transported into a new world, and you're with these characters, you're seeing everything that's happening, and I can't even explain. I literally went on a journey, and that's happened to me before, but it hasn't happened in a sense where I could feel everything that was happening, and when something happened to the main character, it happened to me too. And that was something that had never really happened to me before, because I read it towards the beginning of the year, and that has happened more times as I have continued in my reading, but that was the first time it had happened to me, and I owe that book a whole bunch, because if that hadn't happened to me, I probably wouldn't have known what reading can do for people. And it's a wonderful book, and I would just say, if you're stuck in this book, or if you don't really know if it's something that you would like, I'd just say give it a try. I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to fall in love with this book like everyone else has, but I think it's worth giving a try because it's good. So my number 2 book is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. And my number 1 book should not come to a surprise. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a lot of people's first number 1 book this year, just like my number 1 book was last year. But my favorite book of the year has to go to Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. I think that this book was probably my favorite because it was different, and I felt like this story hasn't been told in this way before, and I just loved how different the characters were, and I loved that Eleanor wasn't perfect, and that Park knew that Eleanor wasn't perfect, and the fact that he wasn't perfect himself, but he tried to make others feel wonderful. And I don't even know if I'm making sense right now, but this book just kind of opened my eyes. I read it twice this year. It's I don't even know. It really opened my eyes to how cute cuteness can be. I think this book took cute to a whole nother level. I was crying over hand holding, guys, and I cry a lot, but over hand holding, apparently this book just has magical powers, because it took me places. It made me cry, it made me laugh, it made me want to rip my heart out, and it was just good. Read it. That is all I have for my top 13 books of 2013. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said towards the beginning of the video, if you've read any of these books, or if you're interested in them or anything, or you have questions, or you just want to tell me your opinions, please leave it down in the comments, and I will be there and be talking to you guys. And yeah, so 2013 is almost over, and it's been a pretty great reading year, and I have to give a lot of the credit to you guys, because you guys recommend the best books, and the booktube community has just kind of become my bookish home, and I love it.